Guys, welcome to another video. You've got Mr. Everything English, and today guys we are looking at Macbeth. Now guys, a common question when it comes to the character of Macbeth is how does Macbeth change? But to understand how Macbeth changes, you really have to understand what kind of character he was right at the very beginning. And that is what we are doing today guys. We are looking at a small extract from Act 1 Scene 2. This is the first time ever that we are told about Macbeth as a character. So it's the perfect extract to use as your first impression for Macbeth. Now this extract guys is from Act 1 Scene 2. In Act 1 Scene 2, the war is taking place, the battle is taking place between the Scottish and the Norwegians. And Macbeth is the leader of the Scottish army. And the king has called the captain, the sergeant, and King Duncan has asked him, give me an update about the war. Give me an update about the battle, who's winning. And the sergeant says, it was a very, very close battle. And then he introduces the character of Macbeth and tells us the impact that Macbeth had upon this battle. But this extract isn't just about the impact that Macbeth had upon the battle. We learn so much about the character of Macbeth. So guys, let's begin.
Everything education. Tuition for maths, English and science.
So when we look at the extract, this is the part that I've chosen, and this is when we are first introduced to Macbeth. And when we are first introduced to Macbeth, guys, he is described as brave Macbeth. And here, guys, you want to focus on the adjective. The adjective that begins is brave Macbeth. And instantly, guys, you want to link this back to patriarchy. Patriarchy and power. Macbeth from the very beginning of this extract. Remember, guys, this is the first time that we are introduced to Macbeth. And what do we learn about him? We learn about him being brave. There is a reason why Shakespeare chose this to be the adjective that we are given when it comes to Macbeth. It sets the tone, it sets the impression that Macbeth, from the very beginning of our text, he's a powerful man, but he fits in perfectly to a patriarchal society. A patriarchal society, guys, was when a man was dominant, when a man was in charge. And Macbeth, he ticks that box from the very beginning. Well, he deserves that name. And here, guys, it gets a little bit interesting. Guys, here, it gets a little bit interesting. Well, he deserves that name. What name is he talking about? Because his name is already Macbeth. What happened here, guys? It's as though they are combining the two. They are combining brave Macbeth as the name of Macbeth. He's so brave, it's become synonymous with his name. You could argue that yes, brave is an adjective, but is the captain using brave as a noun? Because he's doubling it up for brave Macbeth. He deserves that name. He's coining this as the name of Macbeth. And guys, that's how brave this man is. This man is so brave that you want to attach it to his name. And then guys, the line continues. Disdaining fortune. Here guys, you want to make the point. Macbeth, the way he fights, he goes against fate. He goes against fate. And this very early on, guys, is a very, very telling sign. So I would put here that this is also foreshadowing. Now, what does it mean that he's disdaining fortune? Guys, if I said to you, I'm going to have a fight with 20 people, you would be right to say, sir, be careful, you're going to get battered because 20 versus 1 is not a fair fight. What Macbeth is doing is that he's going against fate. He's going against destiny. When it looks like he's supposed to lose, he wins. He goes against the tide. He goes against what is supposed to happen. But this is important. Why is it foreshadowing? The fact that Macbeth goes against what is supposed to happen, it could link to it when he kills the king, because he goes against the natural order. So, from the very first couple of lines, guys, we learned that Macbeth is brave, and we learned that he's so brave that they want to attach the adjective brave to his name. Then we learn that on the battlefield, he is so strong that when the odds are against him, when the enemy is too much, he goes against fortune and he pulls the victory out of the bag. Now, it continues to talk about how he fights with his brandished steel. Now here, guys, you want to again talk about the sword. But don't just mention the sword, guys. You want to talk about symbolism. Now, there's two things here that I would like to focus on. Number one, we can link this back to patriarchy. But number two, guys, you can really link this particularly to the idea of Macbeth's masculinity. Because that is what the sword is a symbol of. On a battlefield, the man that could use the sword the best was deemed the best fighter. And you almost want to make it out as though Macbeth and his sword is what makes him powerful. It's not his speech. It's not his crazy strategy on the battlefield where he's making the soldiers, some go that way, some go that way. This is a one-man show. This is Macbeth by himself. We don't even learn about any other soldiers. So it's the idea, guys, that this battle is being carried literally by Macbeth and only Macbeth. Now, what is his sword doing? Guys, his sword is absolutely savage. His sword is smoking. Have you guys ever seen those cartoons where when the characters or when the cartoons, when they're fighting so quick, there's smoke coming out of their hands? Or if you ever go to a factory and you see the machine spinning, there's smoke. The friction causes smoke. Guys, Macbeth. Now, yes, this is a hyperbole. Now, guys, of course this is a hyperbole, but this is a very, very good hyperbole. Because what do we want to focus on here? This is created through speed. Macbeth on the battlefield, guys, he's killing so quick that it's as though there's smoke. Because of the friction, the constant friction, there's smoke all coming off his sword. And you want to make the point, guys. I'm going to argue, guys, it makes Macbeth here seem as though he's some kind of superhuman. On the battlefield, he's like a phantom. Do you know how you see a cloud of smoke and the guy walks through with the sword and around him the enemy is just dead on the floor? That's the image that Shakespeare is creating about Macbeth here. And then he takes it up a notch. When you go on the battlefield, guys, and you fight the enemy, it's a fight. It's a battle. But Shakespeare uses the word execution. He uses the verb here, guys, execution. And this is a very, very interesting choice of word. You want to make a point, guys, that an execution, guys, is extremely one-sided. How do executions take place today? I don't know, you might put somebody in an electric chair and they might get electrocuted. You might inject them, you might hang them. But every execution is one-sided. One person is completely finished and the other person destroys them. This is how Macbeth's killing is described on the battlefield. And it emphasizes that the enemy has no chance. The enemy of Macbeth, guys, has no chance because he is not there to fight. He is there, guys, to simply execute you on the battlefield. And then we move on, guys, to the simile, like Valor's minion. Like Valor's minion. Now, of course, if you want to make the point, guys, you can straight away. The like here, this is a simile. But what is it comparing Macbeth to? It's saying that he's so quick and strong on the battlefield, he's like Valor's minion. Now, Valor means bravery and courage. Minion is servant. So what it's saying is that Macbeth, guys, is saying here that Macbeth is the servant of courage. He's the servant of courage. He's the servant of bravery. Which is a good thing, I think. Which is a good thing. However, However, let's take it a little bit further. Is he then a slave to his desire? If so, can we link this to Freud? Now, I've used Freud in the past, guys. Who is Freud? Freud talked about how the human brain has an id, an ego, a superego. Let's just focus on the id. He said the id part of our brain is our instinct. And he said that human beings have 3 instincts. But let's focus on 2. One is to worship and one is to survive. In this part of the text, guys, he's the servant of courage. He's so obsessed with bravery. He's so obsessed with being strong. It's like he's given himself up. When I picture Macbeth, guys, as a servant of courage, if we personify courage as a human being, I see Macbeth kneeling down and taking orders from courage. Sounds nice, sounds very strong, sounds very, very brave. But the problem is, if you're a servant, if you're a slave to something, then you give it all up. You give up yourself for that thing. How much is Macbeth willing to sacrifice to be brave? How much is Macbeth willing to sacrifice to be seen as courageous? And this is where we're going to take this quote and make it better. Act 1, Scene 7. Act 1, Scene 7. When Lady Macbeth says to him, "You will live like a coward if you don't do what I say." That's why it hits him so bad. That's why he says to her, "I'll do everything that it takes for me to be a man in your eyes." Because being the servant of courage, sacrificing himself up, that I will do anything to be brave, when somebody threatens his masculinity, when somebody threatens his power, they threaten not only his power, but they threaten him, because he is that. Macbeth isn't known for his speech. He's not known for his intelligence. He is known for one thing and one thing only, and that is his ability on the battlefield. He is a good fighter. And guys, this passage is beautiful, especially that line there, like Valor's minion. Yeah, it's lovely. He's so strong. He's the servant. He's the servant of courage. But at the same time, being a servant of anything puts you in a position that you are beneath. You are weaker than whatever you are serving. Okay, guys, carry on. Then I love this quote, guys. This is my favorite quote. As Macbeth is moving through the battlefield, guys, he is carving out his passage. Guys, he is carving out his passage. Now, yes, carving is a verb, and passage. Here, guys, you want to make a point that this passage, I envision it to be carved out with bodies. Do you know, how should I explain this? Imagine, right? Guys, imagine this is the battlefield. Guys, imagine this is the battlefield. And you're looking for Macbeth. All you gotta do is follow the passage that he's created on the battlefield. Now, this passage on the battlefield, how has Macbeth created it? How has he put it together? He's created this passage through a pile. A pile of what? A pile of dead bodies. Dead body 1, dead body 2, dead body 3. There's Macbeth. He's following a clear passage. Now, why is the word carved so important? When you carve something, you leave a deep mark. Macbeth is killing so many people that on the ground, the bodies that are piling, they're almost carving into the ground because there's so many of them. Guys, this is beautiful language here. The whole thing is juxtaposition, because the way Shakespeare talks about death and killing is so beautiful. He's talking about how Macbeth is killing so many people that the bodies are just leaving a nice, lovely passage to Macbeth. But this is also important. When you create a passage, it shows that you are focused. Why? Because a passage leads to somewhere. So it shows you guys that when Macbeth is on the battlefield, He's focused. He's going somewhere. He's looking for someone. And that is what Macbeth is doing here. He's killing all these soldiers kind of for fun. He's carving a passage. He's trying to get to someone. He's trying to go somewhere. These soldiers are just in the way. And then, guys, what does he do? When he faces the enemy, he never shakes hands. He never says bye. What does he do, guys? He does the famous quote, guys. He unseams him from the nave to the chops. Now, nave to the chops, guys. Here we're talking about your belly button to your chin. He's talking about your belly button to your chin. And then we have to speak about the word unseamed. Now, guys, hear me out for a few minutes. When Macbeth met the enemy, look how he kills. He unseamed the enemy from the belly button to the chin. From there to there. Now, this is going to be very, very important. One straight line. One straight line. Now, unseamed. Unseamed, let's say you get a piece of fabric. This hoodie, for example. If you unseam it, you tear it apart. You tear it apart. You tear apart the stitching. So when Macbeth meets the enemy, he's cutting them literally in half. But this begs a very important question. Why isn't Macbeth stabbing straight in the heart, cutting the neck off? Why is he swiping one straight line? There's a couple of points that I want to make here. Number one, Macbeth is a perfectionist. Like a tailor who's sewing clothes. Macbeth, guys, he's killing you in a very, very clean line. Number two, look at the way he kills you. One straight swipe, you open up. You're going to bleed out. It's a slow, painful death. And number three, guys, I always say this. In this extract, Macbeth is an artist. The battlefield is his painting. The blood is his paint. And he is creating his masterpiece. That is how you want to see Macbeth here. So the way he kills, even the way he kills is poetic. Even the way he kills is beautiful. So guys, let's make those points very quickly. Before I forget them. So number one, guys, the word unseen shows how Macbeth is specific on the battlefield. Number two, he kills you in a painful and a slow manner. And number three, he's a master. He's not trying to rush the killing. He's very calm, he's very confident, he's very clear. And finally, guys, the last line, what does he do once you're dead? Once he's got you, guys, he puts your head upon the battlements. And here, guys, is clear foreshadowing, because at the end of the text, this is exactly what happens to Mr. Macbeth. Now, guys, when we look at the famous doorbell, joking. Guys, when we look at this extract, this is very, very important. You have to understand how Macbeth is presented, guys. He is presented as an absolute savage. He's an absolute powerhouse. So when you look at how is Macbeth presented at the beginning of the text, don't say Macbeth is powerful. He's way more than powerful. The guy is like an absolute, I don't want to use the word God, but the guy's like an absolute undefeatable, rare phantom of a being, where he's walking across the battlefield. There's smoke coming off his sword. He's killing the enemy left, right, and center. He's killing them so bad that the bodies are building up a passage. And then when he kills, he's not stabbing. He's swiping straight up, opening you up. Your blood is leaking. Guys, Macbeth, use it. Macbeth is the artist. The battlefield is his canvas and the blood is his painting. This is how we are introduced to Macbeth at the beginning of the play. This is our first impression of Macbeth. But you want to make 2 points. There are 2 clear downfalls in his character. Number 1, he is a servant to courage, meaning he will do whatever it takes to be seen as brave. And number 2, that's all he has. We don't learn about his speech. We don't learn about his intelligence. We don't learn about anything else about his character other than his ability to fight. Alright guys, use this in your exams, use this for your revision. It's been Mr. Everything English. Peace.